Good afternoon. I am making this video to describe and demonstrate some of the provider workflow issues we are having as far as coding and documentation in SRS and how that compares to our old system in eClinicalWorks. So what I've done is I have placed 2 appointments on the schedule for today. One is in eClinicalWorks for a test patient and one is in SRS for a test patient. And I'm going to demonstrate coding and documenting the very same procedure, which is a very common procedure called a medial branch block trial. I probably do this procedure 5 to 10 times per week. So I'm going to go ahead and time the amount of the length of time it takes to document in both systems and compare those two. So we'll first start by the stopwatch, and then I'll go to my eClinicalWorks first. Right-click on the appointment type, which will go ahead and bring up the progress note for the day, and that would be an operative report since we are coding and documenting a procedure. On the right side of my screen, you can see the list of pre-done templates that I can scroll through and find the correct one for this procedure, which is a bilateral L3 through 5 medial branch block trial. I can click the arrow, which will then go ahead and pre-populate the note with the documentation that's appropriate for that procedure, as well as on the bottom, the procedure codes. It's always a good idea to check the codes and make sure they're correct, so I can open up that screen. I can see the ICD-10 diagnosis. I can see the codes for that procedure. I could see the modifiers right and left pre-populated, as well as the ICD-10 code, which is linked to the procedure code and the correct modifiers. The only thing I have to fill out here is their follow-up visit, which is not templatable, and I would like them to return their 24-hour pain diary. So I'll go ahead and type that in for the patient. And then once I click done, the coding goes over to the billing company. Then you do want to lock the note, so I'll go ahead and lock that note. I also want to fax the note to the patient's primary care provider, so I will click the fax button down here, look at the faxing template, pull that up. Now, if we had the primary care physician in the eClinical system, it would pre-populate this field for the primary care. We can also add it to other physicians as well. But in this case, I'll go ahead and browse through the phone numbers and I'll send a test fax to Dr. Tang. And then I will make sure she's populated here and I will hit OK. There she is. And then the last step is hitting the send fax button, and that went ahead and faxed it to her. So we'll go ahead and stop the timer and note that that took 2 minutes and 10 seconds to document the note, to make sure the coding's correct, and to fax the note to the primary physician. So let's reset the timer and see how long that takes in SRS. So let's go ahead and start that. We'll come over to our appointment, make sure the person is correct on the appointment type, which it is. So we know for this procedure, we're gonna code for lumbar facet arthritis, so we'll enter that code in, and then we'll go ahead and find our procedure codes for the day. So we'll go to our order entry, click that, which will open our order entry screen. I have a list of saved orders for commonly used procedures, so I will click the facet first level, bring that over twice, once for right, okay, once for left. I'll scroll down to add an additional level to that procedure, which will be this code, and then once again we'll arrow over once for right and once for left, and make sure that added the left, yes. So we'll close that. So I've entered the ICD-10 and the coding, so then we'll submit the billing file, which is where we will need to link the modifiers and the diagnosis every time. So, not sure what those other codes were. They're not for today. Again, this is a test patient. So we'll have to add a right-sided modifier for this code. We'll have to add a left-sided modifier. We will go ahead to our second level, add the right-sided modifier. We will then add the left-sided modifier. Click out of that. Then we need to link the diagnosis manually every time. So there are 4 codes we're submitting, so we'll go ahead and link that 4 times, and then we'll submit the file. It might not let us because of these other codes. So we'll just assume that's submitted. Okay, so that's how long it takes to submit, but it just froze on me, which happens frequently. Oh, there we go. Nope, I don't want to exit. Okay, so now we're coded. We will then start our documentation. So we'll open up our forms module. We'll go to my notes and open up my template for the medial branch block trial. We're at 2 minutes, 20 seconds, by the way. So we did that procedure in the office. It's a bilateral medial branch block 3, 4, and 5. And we did that under local. And they were prone. We'll tab through. Once again, it was bilateral. And we did a 3, 4, and 5 levels. Tab down. So next thing, if we want the procedure codes on the note, we have to add them. So we'll do that. We did these 2 codes. And then I'll go ahead and sign the note. And we can save and print it in order to fax it to our primary. So from the print screen, we will select our SFax driver and hit OK. And there's our SFax. Oh, pulling up down there. All right, we will continue that. And then we'll stick with Dr. Tang. So we'll enter her name in our fax. There she is. So we'll click on her name. And then we will send that. And looks like it is being sent. So we'll go to our stopwatch and hit stop. So 3 minutes and 54 seconds. So just shy of twice as long to code and document in SRS as it took to code and document the same procedure in eClinical. One thing of note is you can see in SRS how many more clicks and screens you have to run through to do the same note. You are looking in the diagnosis module, the coding module, the forms module, and the fax program. So it's a lot of clicking around. So this is one example of why the providers are so frustrated working in SRS as opposed to our old system. I hope this helps.